That's my dude, Bradley. Rest in peace, homie. I never met Brad, but I'll tell you a story about that later. Ain't got no clothes we got. Ain't got no time to grow. Lord knows I'm weak. Won't somebody get me off of this reef? Ain't got no quarrels with God. I can tell you that for a motherfucking fact, yo. None. Ain't got no quarrels with God. I mean, I've walked the walk. You know, I haven't accomplished. I'm not attached to the accomplishment. I know it's a journey, right? So that's what I have to learn to embrace that part. And that in a society that's profoundly sick, it's tumultuous. So you got to find a way to get comfortable with the discomfort, you know. That's what tomorrow is. So it may be the end to all this, finally. So tomorrow, and I want everybody there. Like, stop in. Like, if I was having a party, you guys would be there. You know what I mean? If I was having a movie premiere, you would be there. Stop in like that. You don't have to stay the whole time. But if you're my people, stop in. Show me you're my people, because I'm going to remember this shit for the rest of my life. I remember the people who came in at the beginning of this, and I thought I'd be sleeping on the street. I was willing to, you know what I mean? And they said, no, you're not going to do that. Take this money, whether you like it or not. And that forced me into this space of humility and reciprocity, and I've just grown stronger and stronger ever since. And been able to take all this bullshit. And my whole ploy was to see how bad the system actually is. I had that concept for We the People. And it's only stronger now. Like, it's only been validated exponentially because of this whole experience. Without this experience, it would be a concept. And when times get tough, it's easy to drop concepts. They're ideas. But because I know viscerally, experientially, what is going on right now, how it got to this point, who's doing it, for the most part, why they're doing it, the history, what they're planning, I can't stop. And I wouldn't. I mean, I don't know. So here's the gist. I'm trying to make this as quick as possible. So I build a company, and I'm not a contractor. I've been in entertainment my whole life. Actor, writer, producer. And Film Incentives came to Michigan. I came back out here for a stint. During that stint in Michigan, where it was booming, had a son, and then, you know, eventually my daughter, Sophie. And I mean, there were a few things that were happening back then. I didn't know I had PTSD, but I was having these flashbacks, these Bender flashbacks that would happen every 3-4 months. So that was plaguing me. Knew my son was coming, and I had just done a couple of movies that I starred in, and when everybody came to Michigan, they were coming to me. You know, not the only person, but they, like, everybody, like the biggest names in Hollywood were accessible now, and I got the script for Wolf of Wall Street, and I mean, I got to I would have been able to reunite with Leo. I hadn't seen him since The Body Shop, fucking his first week of box office in Titanic. And Scorsese is, you know, probably my favorite director of all time, and it was only those two attached, and I think they needed $10 million for it. I don't know how Scorsese's always getting caught in these $10 million binds, but he'll give his salary up and shit. But so I got the money, and I all I had to do was make the meeting, and I had a dream that I was going to kill myself, and that was a good premonition, because I probably would have. And I didn't care. That's what I went to Hollywood for in the beginning. James Dean mantra. I swear to God. Like, I realized how hard that must have been on my mom, that I didn't care if I died. I wanted to get rich, famous, and died like James Dean. Live fast, die young, have a good-looking corpse. It was crazy. I didn't see myself living past 25. And I did. I did, and things changed. So when this opportunity came to me, I had this premonition that I was going to kill myself. And it was accurate, because fame would have gobbled me up back then. I wasn't mentally capable of handling the public like that. And I had this interaction with Leo, ironically enough. Nothing's by mistake. At the body shop, his first week of box office with Titanic, and I went up to congratulate him on the success in this fucking nude bar, and we're kids, man. I was 20 something. I'm in there with my girlfriend. He comes in with three of his dudes who aren't famous, and everyone's partying a little bit, and as soon as he walks in, he gets mobbed by all these fucking adults. It was the weirdest fucking thing. So I'm walking over to his table, and like I've never experienced that fucking. It was so toxic. And I'm back there clowning a little bit, like, what the fuck is this shit? They're with cocktail napkins and shit, making themselves at home at his table, and it was crazy. Like, he's just trying to have a good time, right? So the world didn't know Leo as Leo yet, but they were starting to. But he already knew, like, he was being pulled by Hollywood and the system, and they knew what he. But he was his parents were fucking gypsies. I mean, they lived inland desert, and money wasn't their driving force, right? So he was grounded. He's been able to handle fame probably better than anybody that's at his level. Brad's done pretty well with it. But anyway, so I go to, and all that happens, and then the bouncers kick everyone out, and it's just me and my girlfriend and those four. And I was like, what the fuck was that? He's like, I don't know. But he did know. He did know. He had some kind of fucking spiritual knowledge that I needed, because I was driving hard. Like I had booked 90210, I think, at the time. I don't know if it was the next day or the day after, but I had my screen test for I had booked Saved by the Bell, the new class, the quarterback Tony or whatever the fuck. I didn't feel right about that role, but it was good money and fucking it was a role, right? So it was recurring, and $2,600 a week was a lot back then. But anyway, so I said what did I said I said congrats on the first week of box office. I'll never watch that shit because I was a snobby method actor. I'm not gonna watch that big blockbuster movie. I watched it. It was a great movie. I said, but promise me this. Promise me you'll never stop making Basketball Diaries. And I remember this moment in time. His fucking eyes glitched. I'll never forget this fucking shit. Because after it, I started sabotaging my audition. Like, I pulled over in a gas station and didn't go to my screen test. I said my car broke down. I knew that role wasn't right for me. Because my ego wasn't ready. Like, my ego wasn't ready to take any kind of people just being yes men to me. That would have been toxic because I would have believed it. And I had already manifested that James Dean, River Phoenix, fucking, that's where I was headed, and I was cool with it. And after I met Leo out there, and that happened, I realized what he was communicating to me in that moment. I was communicating to him, you're a bad motherfucker, don't stop being a bad motherfucker just because of all this money, right? Like, that was my communication, subtext. And his was, you don't want this. You don't want this. This is fucking toxic, stay away. So it's ironic that when this other big opportunity, he gives me Wolf of Wall Street, and I was like, this is a fucking badass script, and Leo's in it, and that was easy 10 million, you know what I mean, to get, and then that dream happened, and I was already wrestling with, I mean, so now I get famous, and I'm going to be a paycheck dad. I'm not bringing the kids out to LA, obviously, their mom's not going to go out there, so I made a choice. I said, if it wasn't for Vinny, I would have taken it, no matter what, and I would have died probably, because I think that the fame shit, the toxicity would have gobbled me up with my PTSD being unattended to. So I walked. And the guy that I had invested in, he was never able to have kids, and he always loved the fact that I had kids, and so we kind of winked on it, and he's like, I'll always be rich. He said, he knew I didn't get sick. He's like, it's kids. Yeah, it's kids. And that was it. That was it. I'll always be rich. I'll never forget that meeting either. Because that was, it made it okay. Because I felt like shit. I felt like a piece of shit for making that decision. You know what I mean? Like, I worked my whole life for something like that to happen. And then, and that's a surefire fame. I got two movies where I'm starring, about to be released, and walk into that Oscar winner and with Jonah Hill, but it would have killed me probably, and then it would have been worse because I had my kids. So because I chose to be a dad, I stayed in Michigan, and then I got to experience poverty again at a different level than I experienced it this time. It was better. I mean, people still acted like they cared. You know, it was a different world, and it's crazy to say, but a different world in 2008 through 2011. It was a different world. It's fucking crazy how different it was. Um, Best decision I made in my life. Like, and I didn't even start talking about it till I did the podcast, Human Condition, and I just blurted it out one time, and that was the first. I was so embarrassed to talk about it. You know what I mean? Because it just felt like I was sabotaging, or I was scared, or no, I had a premonition, and that premonition was accurate. You're gonna kill yourself. But the thing that, it was Vinny. It was him being there, and Sophie. I think Sophie was on the way. I can't remember. But it only took one, and no, I'm gonna do the dad thing. I didn't know how, and I only knew myself as an actor, writer, producer, and an international drug trafficker, right? So I'm out in Michigan, and international drug trafficking was done because that was starting to get hot, kind of like Goodfellas style. Like everybody was getting hemmed up, and I said, for me, this was always a means to an end. I don't want to be the man. That's not what I'm trying to do here. I'm out. You know what I mean? I popped out. I could. Most, I mean, it's the shit that happened right after. You know what I mean? And even during, like the shit, it's crazy. So that was dead for me, and I didn't know what the fuck to do. I didn't know myself as anything other than that. And it was a lot of ego because I was attached to that identity. I liked it. It's something I pursued and was successful at, and so it was hard to let it go and even consider doing any other kind of work. And this insurance restoration thing popped up, and I just tested the waters. The guy that was telling me about it, I was like, I don't believe you, motherfucker. Like, this is too good to be true. He was just talking about the money part. So I wound up working with some people he knew that I thought were a little more organized than he was, and it was true. It was true. The money was there, definitely. But the thing that really ingrained me in it, to where I didn't even think about the movies. I had the movie projects going on, but some crazy shit happened with that too, and I was able to just let that go and be what it was, and that paid off too. But it was this 91-year-old woman. She had this little roof in Roseville, Michigan. If you know the place, it's little tiny up and over roof. I don't know, maybe 11 square, 12 square, cheap roof, organic. And auto owners there was a big windstorm. Auto owners wanted to pay for one half of the roof. I said, what? Are you out of your fucking... I didn't know anything. I didn't even know what fascia was at the time. I had to pretend to know what it... Like, you don't want me swinging a hammer on your shit. I mean, I can fix my own shit, but you don't want me doing your roof. You want me getting your roof approved, but you don't want me doing... You know what I mean? So it was kind of funny that I was going into this world of contracts, and I was even laughing at it, but and that what I did know is what they were doing was wrong. She's a 91-year-old woman. Her husband she's crying. She'd been with the company so long, they had a $100 deductible, and you want to give her half a roof? And I was starting to learn what non-repair, that's an organic roof. They discontinued that. Fuck you. No, you're not doing that. So I just fought. I fought because there was something in me that said that's wrong. And it's not going to happen. I'm not going to let it happen. And eventually, I wound up leaving that company to go to a bigger company. And that's where I met my ex-partner, the fucking scumbag, who's not really a scumbag, but he is. I left for a bigger opportunity. These guys were a little disorganized too. They wound up finishing the fight for me, but I 4 times. So 4 times, and then, but I became a deep, deep study on insurance law and protocol and why that was wrong. And I started learning the verbiage. I got real nerdy with it, and I'm already into physics and that kind of thing. So learning the weather stuff wasn't that hard. But so that's kind of how I move through life. It's whatever I'm compelled to do. I don't care what anybody else thinks I should do, except for my kids. And I'll even make decisions outside of what they want, because sometimes you have to. We've been pretty aligned. It's been crazy how aligned we are in a lot of our stuff. But so I really dug in, and I created a system in Michigan for roof appraisals. I knew exactly when we were turning the corner on our financials. I had it down to a T. Pandemic hits. As soon as that passes by, we're back on track, and we're headed for our first surplus since we've been open, like $100,000 surplus. So I was told by Kurt, the CPA, and he invested illegally. He wasn't supposed to invest because he's an accountant and conflict of interest. But anyway, he comes in during the pandemic, brings his partner Scott in. Come to find out, they pride themselves takeover artists. They buy distressed companies. So what they do is they'll come in, they'll invest in a company that they believe is going to fail. They want it to fail, but there's value in the company. So they'll lend money and then they'll buy it back for pennies on the dollar when these people can't pay the debt back. Well, we didn't die. They didn't do their research, and we were about to be profitable. And there was a detriment to the company's success, and it was Patrick. Not by choice. He's just a detriment because his brain doesn't work right. It doesn't. I can't imagine that he was like that pre-explosion in Iraq. So I felt for him. That's why I've always covered for that detriment. And I used to always tell people we're functioning at a 25% efficiency deficit. He was it. The whole time, he was the fucking efficiency deficit. He didn't train people. He never knew what his job was. But he wanted to be boss real bad because that's all he wanted. He just wanted if he knew that he only had 3 days to live or it was going to kill him in 3 days, but that would be the only chance he had to be called CEO and feel like the boss for 3 days, he probably would have took it. You know what I mean? Like that's all he wanted in his life was to be the boss man for a little bit of time. Feel like he was it. So anyway, I met him over at fucking American Dream Home Improvement, and he was horrible as a manager. Luckily, I'm a self-starter, so I was out there killing it as a salesperson. That company was a boiler room, big one. They'd done 132 million that year or something like that. It was pretty good. But they were a boiler room, and I didn't like how they did business. I didn't like how they fucked the people. They fucked insurance companies. They fucked their employees, their fucking customers, and insurance companies. They lied about everything, about material costs. It was just horrible. Like, it was all lies and money. And I was like, fuck this shit, because I knew people. Let me go take what I've learned at this company back to my friend John, and let's see if we can get somebody to invest in his company. That didn't work out because John wasn't, he had some ego attached to his company, so he didn't want to part with what, so that was okay. And I wound up doing it with him for about a year, and but he wasn't as hands-on as me when it came to the legal stuff. He was more contracting, so I really got to dig in and learn how foul these companies are and what the verbiage was to where I could represent people without being called or being charged with acting as an adjuster without a license. It's very, very, there's a very fine line, and it's pretty much semantics, but you have to know it, because if you don't know it, they'll hem you up. They tried it with me a few times. I said, sue me, motherfucker. I wanted them to sue me. I wanted to get on the stand, because when you represent somebody, I don't have any right to that claim unless I get a reservation or a assignment of benefits. That rarely happens. So they knew that, like, as long as they didn't infringe on me directly in a way that I could sue, then I could never present that evidence. They were smart. These motherfuckers at my company, they're dumb as rocks. They watched me annihilate these companies. I would tell all their tactics in plain view of the public, CC everybody in the fucking world on it. And somebody might say something, but we're going to cease and desist you. Go ahead, please do that. They wouldn't. They didn't. They were smart. They're fucking evilly genius, but smart. And they kept me out of that fucking courtroom. That was the smartest thing they could have done. Keep me out of that fucking courtroom, because I will fucking annihilate you. Because I just keep details like that. For some reason, if I have any genius to me, it's my ability to capture nuance, human nuance, and like with Leo, these snippets of time that are super impactful that you could easily overlook, right? But my brain goes there for some reason, and when it's time, it goes back to that moment, like almost like photographically, and it knows exactly what the fuck it's supposed to be used for, and that's what this is. It was that. I had just started toying around with this idea of We the People, NTWR. It's a equanimity-driven movement, virtual virtual movement, and its entire function is to take the greed out of politics, so that so that the people can retain the, or I don't know if we ever had it, but get the power of the vote, and have some control in this motherfucker, because we haven't had any ever in my lifetime. So, but I didn't. That's not my thing. So, but I had a strong dream, and I started writing all this policy, and it just made too much sense. But I still put it on the back. Who the fuck am I to fucking be talking about movements and shit? I got other shit to do. And then that the George Floyd thing happened, the George Floyd murder. So I joined this group called Act Now at my church at the time, Renaissance Unity, and it was a good mix of black and white in that church, and we, it was Act Now, and it was about racial inequality, stopping the injustice in the system. So I learned a lot. I took a deep dive into racism, learned a lot that I didn't know the system of racism, and also personal, biases and that kind of thing, and how it's ingrained in us. And I was, at the time, really deeply ingrained in my cognitive processing therapy for PTSD. So I was really understanding how the brain worked. So just a blank canvas, that right there helped me to understand, now I understand the nuances. I didn't understand them before, but now I know how they work. I know exactly when they happen, and I have academics to it, thanks to Bessel van der Kolk's book, Body Keeps the Score. When I read that, I was like, holy fucking shit. My partner, Sean, in the Human Condition, we had been talking about this because I viscerally had healed myself, but I didn't know the academics to it because nobody had really ever talked about it. And you can't even get it into the diagnosis books because there's no medicine attached to it. But we're on a fucking episode about PTSD, the silent killer, and I'm talking about everything he wrote about, but I'm coming at it from a visceral standpoint. So when I read that, I was like, oh my God. It's a very hard read because it's about trauma. But for me, I was like, oh my God, when you find relatability in the patterns, that's what I tell people. It's the pattern. If you can identify the pattern, the truth of what the pathology of this thing was, what has manifested in you, is it alcoholism, is it whatever ism that it is that is manifested in you, you got to first recognize that truth. Like racism, it's a truth. It happened. It still permeates. There's people who would like it to still be there. And there's generational trauma doesn't heal itself. It never will. It does not heal itself. It can't. You sweep it under the rug, you're going to trip over that motherfucker eventually. It's just how it is. So you have to recognize it. You have to recognize the pattern. You got to identify that shit. Then you can reverse engineer it. But you got to be honest about what it is in the moment. You know what I mean? Like you have to like when I got that, they had tried everything with me. Like, maybe you're an alcoholic. Okay, maybe I am. Let me go do the AA thing. Doesn't seem to work. There's some things that are, I like it. I like the spirit, I like the whole thing. But that's not it. That's it. No, I'm telling you, like, I'm not forced into this fight. I'm out here trying shit. I'm trying everything I can. I'm telling you, that's not it. No, you're an alcoholic. Okay, dude. Like, I'm saying I'm not. And I'm not trying to get caught up in semantics here, but I'm just telling you the therapy we're doing, it's not working. So I got to try something else. And I would keep going I would interview therapists. What do you know about trauma? What do you know about trauma? Don't give me some textbook shit, because if it's textbook, we're going to waste our time with each other, right? So I was on this journey of really understanding myself because I wanted to be a father for my children. I wanted to be present. And all of that combined led to me being able to make a strong decision and bail on that movie. And drop my identity to get me and the kids out of poverty and build this company. So Patrick's begging me, because he knows I'm a golden goose, right? And I'm really, I knew he wouldn't make a good partner. I knew he was going to be a lot of dead weight. I knew it. I saw how he worked at John's company, and I just knew I'd be carrying the whole fucking thing. And I didn't really want to, because I had 2 movies still, and I was really, I'm having fun with this, and this is nice, and I think I'm going to be able to use this in the future. This just makes sense to me, but I don't want to do a company. And then John's company started having hardships. I had to leave that company, and Patrick was like, let's just do the company. My cousins will invest $25,000. And I felt bad for him because he's kind of a bumbling fucking. Yeah, I don't want to call him an idiot, but he was never going to get it. He'd been asking his cousins. Nobody was going to give him money to do anything because he couldn't organize his own fucking thoughts. And I just felt bad, so I was like, all right, so I'll build this for him. I'll build it for me too, because I knew there was money in it, and I knew it was a means to an end. Though I was going to bail in the 5th year, pandemic happened, but it was never for me to keep the company. It was always to hand the reins over to him. I didn't know how bad he was when it came to management. I had no idea how deep it got, and so I was stuck there. We took in debt during the pandemic from Kurt and Scott, who turned out to be takeover artists, but we didn't die. I didn't know how bad. There's a point where his brain, it believes whatever everybody's looking for the least path of resistance. And in this meme generation, the earth is flat. That seems to make sense to me. It's not me personally. It's not fucking flat. It's not. But anyway, but somebody will see a meme and that suits some other agenda that they have or some thought process in them, some psychology. Other people believe it. That seems to work. I'll go with it. So multiply that type of just meme existence by 100 million. Patrick believes whatever the least path of resistance is, he believes that shit. Immediately, he doesn't present any good arguments for why that's just how it is. No, it's fucking not. You can't. You see how they work, right? You see how the insurance is. So you can't just say we get O&P on everything because that's the way it is. Just go do that. No, that's not how it works. And he will argue with you with no argument. Redundancy over and over. And so I had to do everything. I had to do fucking everything. I had to double check his work too. I had to bring in all the contractors. I had to. But I built the company. I had 3 PTSD benders in the beginning. On the 3rd one, I really put my money where my mouth was. I said, look, Patrick, I believe I had a breakthrough on this one, and I think it's the last. I said, I'm so sure that I'm gonna write it down. If I have another one of these and these unexpected vacations, I'm gonna give you a percentage point, which will give you controlling interest. I never had another one again. And I built the company to a multi-million-dollar company. Despite the 25% efficiency deficit. Despite his little ego problems that he wasn't the big boss man that he wanted to be. Despite all that, I was able to bring in money through the pandemic. Despite the fucking where we were as a company. And covered for Patrick the entire time. Nobody knew how bad it was till they got close. And then they saw, Kurt, how this whole thing came about. Kurt was probably in a bad place with Scott. We weren't failing, right? So, but we also weren't making the profit that we should because Patrick was in the way. So Kurt tried to get me to fire him. I said, no, I'm not going to fire him. I just wasn't going to do it. You know what I mean? That's not how you treat people. But I did demote him. It got to be too much, so I demoted him. He didn't know he got demoted because I slapped a president title on there, and he was cool with it. He's like, he had El Presidente. You know what I mean? That's how his mind works. He's kind of like a kid that way. So I had demoted him, but I wasn't gonna kick him out of the company. That was his life. You know what I mean? So, but from that point Kurt was busy at work in people's ears, setting up. I know that was Kurt that set up that fake robbery or fake theft against Smitty and got Randy fired. I know that was Kurt. I know Kurt did that for sure. I can't think of anybody else it would have been, or maybe it was all of them that were trying to get me out. I don't fucking know. But I think, here's what I was supposed to fire Patrick. So Kurt created this rift with me and Patrick, a public rift. Patrick had never in the history of the company done anything financially without asking me. Because he didn't know. And he didn't want to know. And it was better for him to not know. He's lazy. He's a lazy motherfucker. And he's got so much brain capacity, and he'd rather sit on the fucking toilet for 45 minutes and play video games and use it there, right? So as long as he stayed out of my lane, integrity, I was cool with it. But that debt is why I didn't leave the company. I was ready to go at the end of 5 years, like I planned. I knew he couldn't run the company. I knew he wasn't capable, and I didn't think he was going to be able to make the debt back. He wasn't going to be able to pay back what we borrowed during the pandemic. So I stayed. For that reason only. That's why I stayed. I had 2 movies that I had to get out there. I stayed because I owed that fucking money. I felt like I owed it, and I wasn't gonna pass. I knew Patrick couldn't do it, and there was nobody at the company that was capable. And Patrick would have. He would. I mean, he. There was one guy who maybe could have, but he was so jealous of him. Like, it was bad. So I was stuck. And I was. The year that he did this shit, 2023, right? The false accusation. Kurt had been planning this shit for about a year. That 2021, October 2020. I remember the day where he tried to get me to fire Patrick. I had just got back from New York, and he created some thing about it. And then from that point forward, he was trying to get me to misuse funds. I realized what he was doing now. He was trying to get these little technicalities set up that he could use as misuse of funds, and he thought it was going to work. But he didn't realize that the integrity that was real. Like, what I set this company up with was Boy Scout shit. Like, if we got extra money from an insurance company, it's going back. Or a customer, like, no, we're not charging over for, like, it was very fucking run with an iron fist of integrity. So those little technicalities he was looking at to upend everything for me, they didn't work. They didn't work because they didn't exist. So, it was really crazy. Like, I didn't even believe it was real. I was laughing because Patrick says dumb shit. So when he first said misuse of funds, really what happened is him and John Pipkin had recklessly spent on jobs. I budget everything. Everybody comes to me, how many jobs can we get done? For whatever reason, during the holidays, when November 15th, we were supposed to be done doing roofs. I come into payroll on, it was the first, like, towards the holidays. We got 11 roofs to pay for. It's like $100 and some thousand, like $111,000, $108,000 payroll that week. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, what the? I'm spending money already on box trucks and investments and shit because that's what I was told to do. Spend some of that 100,000 surplus, right? Kurt's orchestrating all this shit. Then he's telling them to go spend because it's there. Like I was saying, Patrick had never, because he knew he didn't know shit. But so I tell him and John, but I was trying to level with John, like, you got to stop this motherfucker. He's going to cry if I tell him to do. So control him. He'll listen to you and he'll be simple. If one more of these and we might be done right back in that cash flow crunch. You know what I mean? So 2 weeks later, during the holidays, this one was it was just under 100,000, like 98,000. I'm like, all right. So I went in, threw a fake temper tantrum, left. Like I said, the company's dead. It's fucking dead. One more, we're done. And I didn't think they were going to do it again. They did it again. So this one was like 111,000 or 114,000. So now I'm just riding it out, right? I'm like, Kurt's moderately suggesting to fire Patrick when he was the one orchestrating that. And I'm like, nah, we'll just let it burn now, you know what I mean? Or he can step up, you know what I mean? But I'm not going to fire him. We'll go down in flames together. That's where my head was, because that's what partners do. And yeah, so again, I refused to fire Patrick, and which probably was the best decision, honestly. But we started it together. Integrity, loyalty. I didn't see any reason not to be loyal. So the new year comes, right? We're in a cash flow crunch again, and we're having a meeting, and I say, okay, well, here's my solution. Two signatures on every job order, so nothing goes out without 2 signatures, and I would have to be one of those. Because we knew that that's what caused the cash flow crunch. They were ordering jobs that weren't earmarked, and then you have to pay those crews immediately. You have to pay your materials. So it created big problems, and we didn't have that kind of money coming in, and we could have budgeted it, but that's not what we were doing. We were supposed to shut it down. So during the meeting where I suggest that, Patrick says, well, maybe it's your misuse of funds. I was like, what the fuck did you just say? He's like, maybe it's your misuse of funds. I'm like, so I laughed. I had no reason to even take that seriously because he says dumb shit like that all the time. I'm like, I don't even think you know what those words mean. So I'm going to pretend you didn't say it. So let's move on. You know what I mean? So, and we did. We moved on. Next week, he did it again. And I was like, what the fuck, dude? I was like, we got real business to do here. Do you got something you want to present? Like, if there's misuse of funds, show it. Everybody in here has the passwords. It's Iron Fist integrity, motherfucker. Like, if I misuse some funds somewhere, show me. Don't fucking say it again unless you fucking show me. Because everybody did have the passwords to QuickBooks. That's how I ran it. I don't take meetings behind closed doors. You know what I mean? Like, there's no fucking secretive shit. That's how I dealt with the insurance companies. That's how I won. Because I was being honest, I could say everything I wanted. Right in that fight, in open, plain view of everybody. I didn't have to slither in the muck because I knew that's what I've done with this case. I know the truth. I know the fucking truth, so I don't have to be quiet, motherfucker, because I'm going to get to it one way or the other. So when we get there, I'll take whatever lumps I got to, but when we get there, everybody else will know it too, but I know it, so I'm gonna live it, and so that's what I'm fighting now. So they misuse of funds that failed internally. Their first ploy, they couldn't find it because it doesn't exist. They tried with Venmos. I'm like, oh, look, dumb motherfucker, you got to go in Venmo to see where the money was sent. It just says my name on QuickBooks. That was gone. Then they said my expenses. My expenses. I cut my salary and Patrick's. I cut our commissions so we could hire more sales force because we're turning the corner in July to big profitability. Expenses. We expense what we have to when we can, but fuck my expense. I have a $50,000 spending limit and I don't have to ask anybody for shit, and I've never come close to it. So fuck your expenses. They had nothing. So what they did. This is what they actually did. I knew they committed bank fraud. I knew they went into Bank of America, and somebody at Bank of America told me that Patrick had signed a document saying he was 100% owner of the company. And I was like, and they were able to successfully remove me from my accounts. I started those fucking accounts. Patrick was a ghost. That guy never handled anything financially. Then all of a sudden, he's in there filing false fraud disputes against expenses that I made for the company. Like 14 of them, all felonies. Because you got to lie to make that claim, right? You got to say you don't know who spent that money or how it happened. No, you know. So you lied on all of those. That's all bank fraud. But that document's definite bank fraud. So they used bank fraud to push me out. When they did that, I said, all right, I'm going to run that as best I can from home. They stole my emails. I let them. I said, all right, this is yours to fix now, motherfucker. You're going to pay me for what the fuck you stole, so I'll do my best from home. But yeah, you want to burn it down, burn it down. You know what I mean? What I didn't know is they falsified a resignation from me. Patrick did with his attorney. I found that out on the stand on January 19th. We had another one of these. I baited him into an evidentiary hearing where I could present all my evidence because I didn't want to learn the system. The system is foul for the most part. The foundation of it's good, truth, justice, and liberty, but there's not much of that exists today. It's not, unless you get to a judge that has a respect for the foundation. That's why I'm still alive, because this judge did have respect for the foundation. So when I baited them into this evidentiary, when I baited them into it, I was gambling, right? I could have lost the case right there. But I knew I was going to ask this question, like, what does... I knew they were going to use their corporate fucking bylaws to try to quiet me and just keep it on that contempt and just use that evidence that they have and omit everything else. That's what they tried to do. And I asked the judge a very simple question. I said, when I gave my opening argument, I said, Your Honor, aside from everything this attorney said being a lie, which you don't know yet, what does any of it have to do with truth, justice, and liberty for all? The foundation of our system. It's rhetorical. Nothing. It has nothing to do with that. This is somebody who's manipulated your courtroom to try to get away with their crimes that they committed against me. They made you sign an order by presenting partial not even partial truths, they were lies, but they got to it first. So they, in this system, that becomes some form of truth because they beat you to the punch and they know how to manipulate the system. This is the shit I had to learn. So I said, because they manipulated the judicial system, because everything he said has nothing to do with truth, justice, and liberty, I feel, so you know how they manipulated your courtroom and so you can better do your job, I should be able to present all of my evidence to you. And you, until the court doors closed that day, I got that confession out of Patrick. I didn't know about the false resignation. I had no idea. He told me, I said, Patrick, how'd you pull that bank fraud off? I was seeing if he'd answer it. And he said, there's no bank fraud. Oh, sorry. Let me, how'd you get me off my accounts? That had to, we just went down with, me and Jordan and, his attorney, and showed him your resignation. That was it. It was all legal. Dumbass, you just admitted to bank fraud, you dumb motherfucker, because I never resigned. I know, what, you can just resign for a CEO now? You can make it up? Like, I'd love to see never once in any of their documents has a resignation. That's the first fucking thing you show to support your fucking case. That's why I was blown away by how long it took to get to this place even now. And the fact that it's even still happening is fucking crazy. Because if I was a normal person, man, you have to jump ship a long time ago. So get back on that hamster wheel, start supporting your kids that way. You just got to let it go and let them get away with it. That's what Kurt was suggesting. Hey, Vince, just let it go, man. Just let it. Fuck you. You want my truth, you're going to pry it from my cold dead hands, motherfucker. I told the judge that too. First day I said, if they want my truth, they're going to pry it from my cold dead hands. He smirked. He's like, I think he knew right away he wasn't dealing with somebody normal, right? Like, because I already knew, like, me and the kids made a decision, like, and that's what gives me so much, that's why I was able to do it, because if I was bogged down by the normal teenager shit, like, they would tell me, Dad, don't worry about our phone. That shit made me cry every time, because I felt like a piece of shit, but I know I'm not. I know what I'm doing is the right thing. Like, I know there's menial tasks in life. I know I can provide the bare minimum easy, and I can provide more than that pretty fucking easy. I've been there, done that. But they're walking into a future right now that's going to be bogged down with perpetual greed wars. They're going to be led to slaughter for problems they didn't create, for wars that don't fucking matter. Just greed for absolute power. 18 to 36 draft. You know what they're predicting the population to be in America next year? I forget what the publication is. I always forget. I'll post it sometime, but they're pretty accurate with ammunitions and things like that. Anybody who knows the magazine I'm talking about. 94 million was the population in America that they were predicting for 2025. What do you think they're planning? It ain't for us to live. It ain't for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's, you know what I mean? They got something else planned, for sure, and it ain't about us. It has nothing to do with us. We've been lied to this entire time. That's the truth. And I needed to learn that for myself, because I'm not a person who just takes information at face value. I don't retain information that I don't think I can do anything about. So if somebody comes at me on some fucking flat earth shit, and I'm even remotely interested in it, and I didn't have my... Okay, great. That maybe it's true, maybe it's not, but I don't have time for that. I'm looking at this right now because I think I can do something with this information. So if I can't do anything with the information, I don't fucking need it cluttering my brain. Maybe it is, maybe I know it's not, but any other thing too, like the whole fucking Hollywood and pedophile thing. If you don't see how bad you're being fucking manipulated for that, number one, they know you are jealous, deeply jealous of everybody in Hollywood. You have been your entire fucking life. A lot of people. So because of that jealousy, they can pull it to the surface. And all they got to say is one fucking foul thing to put your defense mechanisms in hypervigilant state to where, I knew it. You want to hate them, you know what I mean? Because they seem to have this cushy life that you want. Or why do they get it and I don't get it? Like, it's all part of that shame prison, that indoctrination that they pulled us. if you don't realize how manipulated you're being to actually think, that there is a pedophile ring that fucking big that would not, if humans can't keep secrets to save their fucking lives, to save their motherfucking lives, they can't keep secrets. So the amount of humanity that a person would have to lose to believe that that was possible on such a big scale. I'm not saying that it doesn't happen, but the rings they're talking, it's just fucking ridiculous. Like, it's fucking ridiculous to think that that many people would abuse children like that. That's just a loss in faith in humanity, and I understand that. I mean, humanity's getting ripped out from all of us, right? I believe in humanity. I believe there's inherent goodness. That's what I choose to move toward, right? I'm not moving toward this foul shit, because this foul shit, darkness begets darkness. They know it. They know it. They know the psychology. So when me and the kids made this, I presented this to them. I've told the story a ton of times. I said, I had $1 million on the table right then. Could have went and bought the company back from the scumbags. But then I would have had to build it. You know what I mean? Not build it, but it would have been successful, very successful. And we'd have been very comfortable. And, my boy was staying out of the way. Just, here, take this money, get it back, do your fucking thing. We didn't have to lose the house. You know what I mean? Like, and we didn't have to lose the house after I refused that deal. You know what I mean? Like, I told the kids, I said, look, $1 million is on the table right now. I can buy it back from them. But, I'm buying it back from the people who stole it. That don't make any sense to me. I said, my ego will get over it. But if that's something you want me to consider, I said, but there's something deeper here. I said, there's thousands upon thousands upon thousands of American people who get infringed on by this fucking corporate bullshit language in this system that they can't afford or even understand to navigate every fucking day. Every day. I mean, through things like mandating insurance, through things like they mandate insurance, not for you. They don't give a fuck about you. That's to protect the property of the people who lend it to you. The people who lend the money to you, who also set the median income, who also set the interest rates, who also set inflation. You know what I mean? It's all rigged against you. These numbers are all rigged against you to keep you a worker bee. The system of indoctrination, the education system, they don't teach. This is the land of dreams. They don't teach you to dream. They teach you to be a good fucking worker bee. You can retire at this age. They teach you to go into debt, right? They keep you in that debt prison. From day one, they knew what the fuck they were doing as soon as. So George Washington, Robert Smith, John Hancock, and Thomas Jefferson, Robert Smith, John Hancock, George Washington, and who am I forgetting here? Benjamin Franklin are the primary founding fathers, right? The financiers of the Revolutionary War. The war costs money, costs a lot of money. So they let them finance it. They still had their ties to the bankers in England, and George Washington didn't take a salary. He was wealthy. They never paid him back. He had to ask for a salary as president, which he didn't want to take, just so he could afford his retirement. Well, the cost of war in this new world was there, and they didn't honor their deals with these men. They all denounced slavery, by the way. It's fucking crazy. Thomas Jefferson, when he wrote the Declaration, he shows up with the fucking thing at the House of Burgess, and I think it was the House of Burgess, and they fucking berate him for fucking like 3 days straight. There was an addendum in there. Not an addendum, it was fucking written in the original. A denouncement of slavery. He wanted to end it. And they beat him up. And he said, fuck this shit. He didn't want his seat back. He went back to Virginia. You know what I mean? So this greed base has been here. And that slavery shit was their shit. You know what I mean? This free labor. They wanted a country of indentured servants. George Washington even wrote, he said, I fear if we don't, and I'm paraphrasing obviously, I fear if we don't release all of these slaves, we can't sell people. And I fear that if we don't denounce this now, we're going to become slaves for the imperialists. That's a nation of indentured servants. That's what the fuck we've become. And they're going to make us slaves now. That's what our kids are walking into. That's what this fight's about. It's not about me. I was always gonna win. I could have fucking won this a long time ago. You know what I mean? But I had to let this system be the system. I wanted to see, can we repair it from the inside, or do we have to completely dismantle this motherfucker? Like, and tomorrow's gonna tell a lot of that. So, this is their last form of infringement. They actually filed for. I wasn't gonna feel good about putting them in jail unless they were willing to put me in jail for. I didn't do anything. I did zero, nothing. I even took a $50,000 loan cash to cover the payroll fuck up that these guys did. That's how oblivious I was to anything going on. I was like, you fucking dumb motherfuckers. All right, I got it. As always. And they let that money come in, and then right after, Patrick starts with his misuse of funds shit. Can't even spell it. And you know what I mean? It was just, but Kurt had orchestrated this rift between us, and he had gassed Patrick up about possibly being CEO after he knew I wouldn't fire him. And that's all Patrick needs. He needs one little snippet of information, this meme information, and if it suits, his deepest fears of not being considered a boss or a man, because he's not. He doesn't act like one. That's why he clings to that Marine label so fucking hard. He clings to it. Be careful. Be very careful of people that cling to labels. They're not a person. You know what I mean? They are, but they don't know who they are. So they can, when the wind blows, they're going to go in that direction that suits them. And that's what happened here. Because he was manipulated, yes, but he's rolled with it to keep that. He likes that position. You know what I mean? As long as he can keep the facade up, he's going to. And he was willing to put me in jail. So now you go to jail, motherfucker. You know what I mean? And I feel bad. I feel fucking bad. He's not. But it is what it is, man. They committed crimes. The system has to act now. And so we're going to see tomorrow if the system's going to act. Is this a declaration of war on our unalienable rights to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness? Because that's what they infringed on. This is civil rights. They fucking, in order to steal my company for their own profit, they manipulated the judicial system with false accusations, misrepresentations throughout the entire fucking thing. That's why I just sat back and I just let them do it. I said, okay, that's on court record. Okay, that's on court record. Okay, that's on court record. Now there's conspiracy. Now we see, you know what I mean? And then at the end of it, when they were going to try to take my bond away to fucking, to put me in jail, I dropped a 60-page document that has everything on, not everything. There's a couple of goodies that I'm going to drop on them tomorrow. Because I know attorneys are going to be like, well, we didn't know that. We didn't know that. Oh, well, what about this? And they're fucking done. Like, when they won't be able to answer that question. They're done. They're fucking done. So, tomorrow, we're going to see if this is a declaration of war on our unalienable rights by the system, meaning it's just too far gone to be repaired because it puts me in jail for criminal contempt when I presented all the evidence that shows how this whole thing happened. Collusively between the attorneys and them. Like, it's all there. Like, every fucking fuck up that they did. I told them I had all the evidence. I was just waiting for the right time. And I dropped it at the right time. So this was always a fight for our unalienable rights. Truth, justice, liberty for all. That's what I stood for. And the judge listened. Judge Warren listened to me. When I asked that question, he went against protocol. And I got to speak. And he got to hear it. And then I had to move a little bit into protocol. I've never gone full protocol, or I probably could have ended this. But I made a choice not to learn it. Or it's easy to learn. I just didn't want to do that system because then I was validating that system. So it was a lot, just give and take on this, me and Judge Warren, how we had to operate. You know what I mean? It's not like he's on my side because judges are truly non-biased. You know what I mean? So, I mean, if they're good, they really have to fucking try. They just have to approach things with it. It takes a different level of discernment and discipline. And so I understand that. And under the conditions that circumstances he's in with his arm, he's got those corporate cuffs on him too. He went against protocol and he let me speak. And he's really, I think he sees the truth, and I don't know that he hopes, but I think there's a lot of people in that courtroom that hope I get to the truth before something bad happens. And I'm not worried about jail. I mean, they're just going to pay for that too. Like, everything they've done now is just proof of their collusive relationship, and the conspiracy. Like the misuse of funds, they don't even talk about that shit now because it never happened. So it's all been a ploy to shut me down. That's what fucking happens to people every fucking day in this system. When me and the kids looked at each other, knowing we were losing that, we didn't lose it. We made a choice to walk away. I went homeless, and then the community started reaching out and said, "No, you're not going to sleep on the street. Here's money for a hotel. Sleep." You know what I mean? Like it's been all fucking empowerment for me. Like this is a beautiful thing, and it's we the people. Now I know what that movement means, and I know why it's so important. I know it. I lived it. I went out there and I lived that experience, and this is what it's about, community. They've taught us to not trust community. Trust in the system. We got you. They don't have shit. They've indoctrinated the fuck out of us and pulled us away from our neighbors, our brothers, our sisters, kept us fighting one another in this perpetual two-party system, the illusion of two parties. They can always manipulate. If one party doesn't do their bidding, they give the money to the other. Then they give the money to the other. It's back and forth, perpetual conflict. There's no thing in the human condition that can be solved in black or white. They know that. They know the psychology. They get those books from us. They've controlled the information. You know what I mean? Like, it's not, there's no conspiracy here. It's just a power base that doesn't want to lose it. So we have the power if we can let bygones be bygones and turn our backs to the system and to community and say, we got to start to trust each other. I got your back. Okay, I'm going to lose my job at Walmart. Can you help me out a little bit? Because I'm going to take the stand with you. So it's got to be like that. And we can do it. Poor people are the most resilient motherfuckers on the planet. We can do it better than anybody because they keep doing it to it. The bailout. What the fuck was that? They don't want to give welfare, but they want a corporate bailout? We always get hit in our fucking heads. Always. Inflation, fuck. We're good. We're good. We'll fucking make it through anything. But if we ever want to have power in this system, which we should, because that's what this was the system to end oppression. That's what this was supposed to be. They manipulated that Declaration of Independence and kept slavery. Simple as that. And they took the integrity out of it, and it's been infringed on ever since by them. They came in, swooped in with their money, built this economy, and which we very much needed, and then here we are. So that's what this is. It's not about me. I could have won this. I could have taken Patrick out of that office on day one. Never, he's gone. He's gone. Not kill him or hurt him or anything. I just would have had some people talk to him, and he would have never come back. He's a coward, right? So, and he knew he was wrong, I think. But even throughout this thing, I could have ended this. You know what I mean? I could have followed protocol, and I could have done it according to the book and just said, let's get this fucking thing done. But then I wouldn't have the conspiracy that I have. I wouldn't have learned what the fuck I've learned about what really needs to be addressed, the subtext, the nuance, what's permeating underneath that has to be addressed. That's what I needed to learn for myself. Because I don't want to fucking embark on a lifelong movement if it's not the right thing. It's like a business plan. People think business plans are a selling tool. They're not, motherfucker. They're a plan. And if that plan goes sideways at some point, you got to jump ship or revise or something. You know what I mean? You don't do it and then go sell it to somebody because it's going to fail. So that's what this has been. I needed to learn the ins and outs of the system and how it could be overcome in a way that was more conducive to our Declaration of Independence, one of the most probably the most beautifully written document in government history. We just never did it because they infringed on it immediately. That's what this is about. Tomorrow's about that. So when I step into that courtroom, it's either going to be a declaration of war or a declaration of justice. The declaration of justice is he's presented the evidence. He shouldn't even be here. You guys have to pay. You're going to have to pay something now. The consequences for your actions, for what you've done with taxpayer dollars, for what you've done to this man and his family. It's time for you to pay now because he didn't do anything. This was all you. And he presented that evidence now. So judges do have that within their power too. If they get presented the evidence properly and they can see it clearly, they have power in that. So I'm hoping that's what tomorrow is. We'll find out. Or I could go to jail. I said I'd die for it. So jail's it's a walk in the park. You know what I mean? And it's just going to be more dividends they have to pay because it's more abuse. So I'm not worried about it. I love you guys. I want you there tomorrow. Just come in. You don't have to stay the whole time. Just come in, give me 5, fucking, give me dap, whatever, fucking. We'll have shot girls in the hall. We won't. I love you guys. I'll see you tomorrow, 1 o'clock, courtroom 5B, 1200 North Telegraph. I love you.